Oh, and hi. Hello, everyone. I just heard that he was done. Okay, so there was a bit of a delay. I was in a meeting, a Zoom meeting, and no, I know. As soon as I go live, he's done. And I was waiting for my dad's office because I'm at my parents' house. And of course, as soon as I go live, he leaves the office. So I'm just going to go with it at this point. You snooze, you lose. He doesn't get to come in his bedroom now. But hello, everyone. Welcome to the live show of Then She Was Gone. I'm super excited because I actually have good things to say about this book. I feel like
Me too.
I have many good things to say yesterday, but today we're going to have good things. I'm super excited. But first off, what did everybody rate the book? Initial thoughts, maybe just like a blanket statement thought. I'm really interested to know because I am going to be really interested if anybody, let me just go ahead and say that I gave this book 4 stars. I'm going to be really interested to see if anybody didn't enjoy it. I will not be offended. I just would love to know your thoughts. Sydney, really quick before we get to some comments, what did you rate it? Did you figure out yet?
Yeah, well, I had a tough time trying to decide because I really liked it, but it didn't necessarily feel like a 5-star. Like I really wanted it to be 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as I get further away from the time that I read this book, I think I might start to forget some things, and then when I look back on it, I'll be like, is that still a 5-star? So I'm thinking in terms of what future Sidney will eventually think about this book. So I'm landing at 4.5.
Okay.
I really, really liked it, but I just don't know if I can give it 5 stars forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay. Hello, Katie. Hello, Riley. Riley gave it 4.5 stars. She really, really liked it. I love that. And Katie gave it 5 stars. She loves Lisa Jewell. So I also, well, I shouldn't say that I love Lisa Jewell. I've only read one other book by her. I read The Girls in the Garden. I don't know if anybody's read that one, but I read The Girls in the Garden by her probably 2 years ago. And I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was great. Definitely triggering. I will look at some trigger warnings, but it was good. This one, I can't tell if I liked more. I think I liked the plot twist more of this one. But I don't know what I think. I don't know. I really can't pick which one I liked more than the other. They're probably even, honestly, because I think I gave Girls in the Garden 4 stars as well. But I mean, all in all, I thought it was great.
I did too. And this was my first Lisa Jewell, and I can't wait to read another one by her.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I definitely will read more of her stuff for sure. Mackenzie gave it 3.5 only because I predicted what was going to happen. So yeah, we're definitely going to get into that later because I think that may have been the case for a lot of people. This is my first Lisa Jewell book, and now I want to read more of her books. Yeah,
exactly.
So you and Sidney are in the same boat. Yeah, so let's talk about the book a little bit. I have kind of the same discussion questions that we did in the last live show. If you were there for the last live show that was on my channel, I'm not going to go through every single thing because I think that's just a little much. I'm going to try to keep this 45 minutes to an hour. So, okay. So my first question is, did the book strike you as original? Which I think is where the whole I predicted what would happen kind of comes in. Me personally, I thought, compared to every other thriller that I've read, I thought it was pretty original. I hadn't really read anything like it. I loved the mix of thriller scary and then weird scary. The creepy, you can't really even explain what went through that character's brain kind of thing. So I thought in that sense, it was really original, and I did like that. But as far as the plot twist, I did see it coming. I couldn't quite put my finger on it at first. It kind of took me a minute, but I was like, there's a connection here. I know there is. And then obviously, the closer we got to revealing it, I was like, okay, I think my theory is right.
Yeah. I feel like there's so much to talk about with this book because there's so many like interconnected like plot points, and like with all the characters introduced, I thought that was really like fun and exciting. Like all these elements that I think she did a great job at like making them make sense. No character was really just thrown in there for the sake of having another character. And I like right away too, I thought that I had guessed it. Like I had a theory, and we'll get into it, but like I was partially correct, but then also I liked the twists and turns that it took before it got to that ultimate twist, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think it was original, and also the parts that weren't necessarily original or things that I've seen before in one of my favorite thriller movies played a part in this book, which I just really appreciated because it's one of my favorite thriller movies. So I just loved like all of that. It was really, really good.
Yeah. Okay, coming over here to Mackenzie. Definitely different from others I've read. Love a good, creepy, twisted story. Yes, I would agree. It was definitely, to me, it was different enough to be original. Some books are different, but not quite original. I felt like this one definitely was, only because certain things that happened I didn't expect.
I like,
yes.
I was just going to say, I like how, I kind of touched on it already, but like I like how it was not just a straight line to what happened. There were so many different branches of things, again, that made sense and weren't just like haphazardly thrown in the story. I like how it was just kind of twisty and it was good. Yeah.
Yes, I will second that. It was very methodical. It was definitely very like well thought out. Like each character that we met played a piece in the plot twist. Like everything was connected. It wasn't like some random character that just gave off a creepy vibe. It was like, no, all of the characters that we've met are intertwined into this whole thing, which I thought was very, very well done. Katie says, I knew something was up with her weird tutor as soon as I read about her. I also got the vibe. I just, yeah. I mean, obviously we wanted, like Lisa Jewell wanted the reader to feel a little bit eerie about the tutor, but I thought it was, I mean, stellar. Like as soon as you meet that character, you're kind of like, oh, this seems weird.
And see, I actually didn't have that. I kind of just disregarded the tutor a little bit because I was going into it with the expectation that, oh, this is just trying to throw me off. Like, why would they be talking about her math tutor? Like, that's just a little random. Like, I didn't pick up on it at all. So I loved that they circled back and it made sense. And then I just kicked myself after that because it's like, oh, it's so obvious. Like, I should have known. I hate when, like, all the thrillers I read that do that to me, I'm like, oh, I'm just oblivious. I literally should have picked up on that.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it was good.
Riley says, I think it was. I've only been actively reading again since September, so I haven't read much thrillers, but I haven't read a book with this plot before. Yeah. And I mean, even if you read a bunch of thrillers, I mean, I love thrillers and I have not read anything quite like this. So I was very impressed with it. But I'm going back kind of to what you said, Sydney, about the tutor, Noelle. I feel like I initially was obviously creeped out by her because I just thought she was a little bit strange, and I was just kind of like, why is she being so weird and why is she so obsessive? And then I did have a thought, like, I think they're just trying to distract me from somebody else, because at first it felt so obvious that I was like, there's no way it's going to have to do with this girl. We're going to meet a new character. They just want me to get stuck over here, so I missed the surprise. Which I wonder if that's what Lisa Jewell wanted. Like, wanted you to feel like you were being distracted, only knowing that like that was the whole plan. And if
which
that
is
was
even more impressive. Like
Exactly. Like she knew what the reader was going to think, and I just yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Riley said definitely knew something was up with Noelle when she started asking Ellie the weird questions. And Katie said same. Yeah. The questions definitely, I think, kind of just solidified how strange she was. I don't remember what it was. There was something that happened like initially before the questions kind of happened. And I think it was just a generic question that she had asked, but I thought it was weird that as a math tutor, why you would ask your student a question like that. Like, I feel like if it was just like you were meeting someone and you were just kind of like, oh, like, what do you want in life?
Yeah,
Or
what are
something
your hopes
kind of
and
a
dreams?
loaded, yeah, like a loaded question like that you would expect from, a family member or even somebody that you have just originally met, but you don't have much to talk about. But I definitely thought it was strange for a tutor to ask that. You usually just kind of stick to scholastic things.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, definitely thought it was weird. Um, um, okay. This, I don't know if anybody's on here that hasn't read the book, but we will probably get into more spoilery things now just because of some of the questions. But I do want to know everybody's favorite part of the book. I feel like that's always interesting for me to know because I feel like everybody always has a different favorite part usually. Um, so I don't know if I would really consider this like a favorite part or just something that I just really loved about like the book in general. But I admired, even though I feel like some people would hate this, but I kind of admired that there was still like little bits of hope that Ellie was still alive. You know what I mean? Like as you were reading, like you kind of felt like, oh, maybe she could still be alive. And that was like one of my favorite things for me because it just felt like I don't know, it felt like the book had ways to go instead of that, like, this is how the book is going kind of thing. Like you were talking about Sydney. Like, I just really loved that it was like, there were moments like when the mom was like, no, like somebody came back into my house and took some of my things using our house key and just different like stuff like that. That I was like, oh, well, maybe Ellie's still alive. And I thought that was really great.
Yeah. I think my favorite part about it is how it was able to be such an emotional thriller for me
Mhm.
too. And it got me so connected to Ellie specifically that when we found out everything that happened to her, I wanted to cry. Like I was so sad. And normally when I read thrillers, like that doesn't really happen. But there was such a good like build up to who she was, and with like the flashbacks and the different timeline jumps and POVs and stuff, I was able to really like love her. And then yeah, it just brought out so much emotion in me. So it wasn't like one particular scene or anything necessarily that was my favorite. It was just like the emotional part as a whole that it was able to bring out of me. That is my favorite.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Lisa Joel did just a great job of like I don't know, making us feel for Ellie and then ripping the rug like right out from underneath us, like as readers. Like, I thought it was like great that like we saw like Noelle in this like obsessive, like overly caring character that just was absolutely like head over heels almost for who Ellie was. And like just was like I just need to have her to myself, and you could tell that it was out of a place of like care, like she genuinely cared for Ellie, but then to watch that turn into like pure just hatred for her,
Yeah.
like I'm just gonna leave her in my basement to rot. Like
Yeah.
you go through like her taking care of Ellie and like, like being there for her in a sense that is twisted, but that is essentially what she was doing was providing for her. And then all of a sudden she just stops going down to the basement. And I was just like, oh, like
Right.
probably the most terrifying death is
Yeah.
like,
Oh my
is she
gosh.
coming back? Like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think definitely that like that switch was flipped. I almost said flip was switched. The switch was flipped in her, that like you could see that she did care for Ellie, but then also in actuality it was just her being very selfish, because she wanted the baby. Like she wanted a baby. She wanted to feel loved too. So like it was crazy, a roller coaster of like Noelle's psyche. I don't even know what you would call it.
Yeah.
Like her brain. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
All the different levels of insanity, you know?
Yeah. I really liked how the whole book was very realistic, the characters, the relationship, and the plot itself. I agree, because I think some thrillers can be very unrealistic, like, oh, yeah, kind of like that whole, like, you're reading the thriller and at the very end, like, the protagonist is finally like, "Oh, I killed my capturer or whatever, like, I killed my kidnapper," and then, like, 5 pages later, the kidnapper comes back to life, like, isn't completely dead, and, like, they're just constantly doing this whole thing, like, that stuff, it just kind of annoys me, because I'm like, okay, let's keep it realistic. If I were to shoot somebody in the chest twice, the likelihood of them getting back up to come and get me again is slim to none. So let's not act like that person is going to get up at full strength and attack me again. So I agree with the realisticness of the book. I don't know if you have any extra thoughts, Sydney, on that point. Okay. Oh, Mackenzie agrees. I felt like it was a true crime story based on true events at some points. Yes, it definitely felt like all of it could have happened in real life. Like it wasn't some, yeah, but that's probably very unlikely to happen. Like this is very likely, like that a woman is obsessed with you and just needs you to
kidnap you and
provide a baby for her. Like that's real. That's scary to think about, but it's real. I also really liked how Noelle gradually went from obsessing over Ellie so much and referring to her by name to leaving her to Ryan and just calling her the girl. Yes. I thought the detachment that we saw was really, really well done. Like it just wasn't some like all of a sudden kind of thing. Like we saw like it happening in real time and we were just kind of like, oh no, like she's starting to not care. Like her mini moments, her very few moments of like rage and outburst. And then all of a sudden they were more frequent and now they were just, constant kind of thing. Yeah, I thought it was great. And then another question is, what did we think of the writing as a whole? I think we've kind of touched on this a little bit. I thought it was great. There were a few sentences. I don't have my physical copy because I'm a terrible host. But I don't have my physical copy, but I remember towards I want to say like middle to end, there were a few sentences that were a little bit on the cheesier side for me. And I was just kind of like, okay, like I've kind of heard it said that way before, or okay, I've heard this concept before, kind of thing. But other than that, which there were very few moments, I think it was like 2 sentences out of a bajillion that I was like, that was kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
But I thought the writing was spectacular.
Yeah, I thought it was good too. I think it was just it took a little getting used to. But then once I got into the groove of it, it was so easy to read. So no complaints.
Yeah. This also kind of has to do with the writing a little bit, but like my biggest reasoning for not giving this 5 stars is that I felt like the pacing at sometimes was a little bit off for me, because I felt like in the beginning, like the first 50 to 75 pages maybe, like we were in a groove and I was like, okay, like we're learning, we got it. And then I felt like there was a period where things dragged a little bit more than I expected. Like I expected it to keep moving at that particular pace, but I think it was also because we did kind of shift perspectives almost. We were now following a new character that kind of shifted the pace. So that really could have been the shift in like who we were following as a character. But it didn't really sit with me all that well. I really was like expecting the pace that we started with, and then it would like stop and we'd have to readjust because of a new character, and then we would stop again and readjust. So that was a little bit difficult for me. I think it was done well. Like I think it was done to the best of her ability. Like I think the way that the book was written so that we could see and follow different characters, that it's hard to do. And I think she did a great job. But again, that is just a personal preference. In a thriller, that kind of stuff is really hard for me to follow.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have any problems particularly with the pace, and the whole time I was thinking about how you had said the pacing was a little weird. But I didn't really see it. Like it worked really well for me, so I didn't have a problem with it.
That's good. It definitely, I've noticed something about you and I, like when we read thrillers, I like more of the like one thing after the other, and you're more okay with like if we're getting there. Like I know some of the more slower thrillers you tend to enjoy, which I expect you to love this book more than me, just because of that reason. Like I was like, oh, I felt like the pace is wonky. I'm like, but I feel like the pace is perfect for Sidney.
Yeah, no, it did really work for me because I do like a little bit of depth,
Mm-hmm.
and to not like just be thrown a million things so that I can digest it a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Riley said, it was also so sad that Noelle did say a couple times in her point of view that she was going to let her go and then just left her to die. Yeah, that was definitely sad. I definitely was a little bit hopeful. Like again, like I love that I had these like moments of hope throughout the book where I was like, oh, like Ellie is gonna live. Like she's still gonna be in the basement and the mom just has to go find her. Like that kind of thing, which I'm glad it didn't go that route because again, I feel like that would have been really unrealistic. But I did love that we had those moments of hope, even though it really was sad to watch them just dissolve. But since she is a British author, there was quite a few words and things that she referred to that I didn't know what it was. Yes. Okay. I totally forgot that she was a British author until something was brought up in the book. And I think it was because they were talking about like an American, something they like referred to an American accent or like an American or something. And I was like, oh, I was like, that makes total sense as to why she's using these terms and like the way that she's built like the story. I'm like, oh, like it's British. Like it took me a minute to get there.
You know what's funny actually is I knew right away because when you started the book when we were together and you read me that last sentence about like, oh my gosh, this mom is terrible. And you read me the part about where she said, I wish it was Ellie here eating beans and toast when she was talking to Hannah.
Yes.
And I know that beans and toast is a very like UK thing. So I was like, so before I even started it, I was like, oh, this is like, she's British. This is like set in the UK.
Yes.
So that's funny.
Yeah, that's so funny. That didn't even register in my brain. Like, oh, that's weird that she's eating beans and toast. I was like, normal. Mainly because the things I have for breakfast are usually like dinner foods or something. Whatever I can find. But going back to what you just mentioned, the mom. Okay, I do want to talk about the mom a little bit because I loved seeing her growth from the beginning to her emotions towards Hannah, and then at the end, now she's putting like herself in a place of like, I'm still her mother. Like as much as one of my daughters is gone, like this one is still here. I did think at the beginning that the mom was very, very harsh and brutal, as far as like the thoughts that we were hearing from her, because she was saying that she wished it was Hannah instead of Ellie. And as someone who wants to be a mom so bad, I could not imagine looking at my children and wishing one of them more hurt and despair over the other. Like I would be like, I can't pick for you. Like, I don't know. And maybe will change. I hope that does not change when I'm a mom. I hope that I can look at them and be like, I love you all equally. Like, I hope there's not a favorites thing that happens. I don't think that will be a problem with me. But that was just really like, I don't know, that was hard to sit with. Like,
really crazy.
Wow, how in the world can she?
And then Yeah, Hannah was an interesting character to me too because of like how closed off we saw her and like and then just like with Laurel forgetting like what her smile looked like she thought that Hannah didn't smile anymore, and just like all these things, and then still Laurel being completely oblivious to like why she may be this way, and it's because you literally made her feel like
Yeah,
nothing and like garbage, and
yeah.
made her feel like she didn't matter. So like that was interesting. But yeah, and then what Riley just said about Hannah ending up with Theo,
Mm-hmm.
um, I didn't expect that either. But as soon as they said that she got the flowers or whatever that were signed by T, I was like, oh, it's Theo. Like I knew it right away.
Yeah. Um,
That
I
was interesting.
yeah, I personally didn't like it only because like thinking of me who has a sister, okay? If my sister got kidnapped or went missing, I'm not going to go date her boyfriend or the guy who was dating her when she disappeared. Like that is just something that I would not do unless for some reason in absolute neon lights it was like it's your guy. Like I just would be I don't know, that would not sit well with me. Like that he was my sister's. He loved my sister loved him. Like there's no way
Yeah,
I could.
it was a little weird.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was a little shocked by it too because I was just like, okay,
Mhm.
okay. I was like, how much did you really love your sister? Because yikes. But maybe their bond was
Yeah,
different. Maybe
because like I wonder then if like that was another part of like Hannah and the problems that she had, maybe always feeling compared to Ellie. Like why would she want to date the person or be with the person that dated her sister when
Mhm.
like she knows that she'll probably continue to be compared, like or she did it out of spite because she didn't like her sister. I have a lot of questions about Hannah actually because if you don't mind us getting into it, I wanted to ask, are you frozen? Oh no, Janelle,
Are
can you
we
hear
good?
me?
Yes. Are we good?
Okay, yeah, you just were frozen for a second and like staring into the camera. I was like, wait, are you there? Did you hear what I was saying?
No, because my screen started loading, and I was like, "What just happened?" I
Oh,
was like,
geez. Yeah, you were just frozen.
"What?" Weird.
Um, so what did you hear me last say?
Um, well, I remember saying that I don't know if I could have done that, and then you started to talk, and then you
Mm.
started talking. So I don't even know the first word.
Okay, well, I was just talking about Hannah. Like, I wonder if Hannah, when, like, why would she want to get with Ellie, or Ellie's boyfriend,
Right.
if she maybe always felt compared to Ellie by their mother. So why would
Yeah.
she want to get with the boyfriend to then continue to feel like Theo is comparing her to Ellie,
Yes.
And then I
Yes.
said maybe on the flip side, maybe she did it out of spite towards Ellie because she didn't like Ellie because of her being the golden child and mother
Right.
favoring her. Um, and then I said, I have a lot of questions about Hannah, actually. I think if you don't mind us getting into it, I had
Yeah.
a question slash theory that we didn't get covered in the book. Um, do you think Hannah knew like that she was suspicious about Noelle from the beginning when she went missing? Because Hannah tells her mom, I'm not done. Hannah tells her mom that she knew that Ellie wanted to cancel things with the tutor because she felt uncomfortable and weird, but Laurel didn't know that. And so, like, when Ellie goes missing, did she have any inkling in her mind, like, oh, maybe Noelle, like, has her? you know, and then just didn't speak up because she's, you know, a bad person, you know?
Yeah. No, I wondered that too when Hannah admitted to her mom that Ellie was weirded out by the tutor.
Yeah.
I feel like that maybe, and maybe I think also too, like if again, if that were to happen and I were to be in Hannah's situation, I think because of everything going on, I don't know if it would've came up unless maybe an officer had asked a certain question to make
Yeah.
me think of the tutor. So,
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe, like, it didn't even cross her mind, like, "Oh, the tutor was just strange." But I also think maybe it could have been that because Noelle was a woman, it wasn't expected. Because I feel like that
Well,
tends to be the stereotype is, like, men
true.
are more likely to do this because men in reality are stronger, like, physically, they tend to be stronger than women. They're more capable physically of doing something like this. So I wonder too if maybe it's because Noelle was a woman that she didn't think that Noelle could physically kidnap Ellie
Yeah.
and keep her held hostage.
Yeah. She had
That's
more of an emotional hold on her
yeah.
instead of physically.
Yeah.
But then we did get to see a lot of the physical force that she took. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And was there even like we didn't see much of like the investigation part, and they didn't talk at all
Yeah.
about like what that might have entailed because they clearly didn't get anywhere. They couldn't figure out anything for 10 years. Even
Yeah.
after even after she buried the bones and was like Noelle from her POV, she says, "I didn't even do that great of a job. Like I figured they would find it right away. I just drove over the bones and like nobody found it for 9 years. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. No one really even cared."
Yeah. I definitely think it was some, like, lazily done police work. I don't know if it was supposed to look like that, but it kind of looked like that to me, especially when Noelle's talking about how she didn't even try.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, well, then they couldn't have been that buried or that out of place
Yeah.
for the police to only be able to find a few bones.
And another thing that I caught like and maybe like theorizing in my own head, I could be the only one doing this. But in the epilogue too, when the policewoman reads the note that the woman brings to her,
Mhm.
that again was a huge I'm not sure what the time jump is for that, but my theory is that it's a big time jump and that policewoman is Poppy.
Okay.
Because maybe like I don't know, I could be totally wrong and like it might not mean anything, but like
Mhm.
what if she wanted to become a police officer to like be a good one because apparently they don't have good police in that town.
Yeah.
Um but like yeah, what if that cuz they say too in the end like um the police woman like her eyes filled with tears and um hold on, let me find it. Where'd it go? The policewoman looks up at her, and the woman can see that her eyes are wet with tears. And then she's like, "Yes, it is that poor girl who had the baby in the basement." So, like, I wonder if she had to have had some connection. So that's what makes me think it's Poppy if it's like a big time jump.
Yeah. And now that you say that, actually, I don't know if they ever released that Ellie was held hostage in a basement and had a baby. Because it
Yeah,
never
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because
released on.
that woman, yeah, that woman, exactly. Like, who was the woman too? And then maybe I don't know.
I think you're onto something, actually.
I want answers. I want to
Yes,
know.
yes,
That was
yes.
a very kind of open-ended epilogue, and
Mhm.
there's no like character names. It's just the policewoman and the woman.
Yes.
You know,
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
have questions.
Yes. Riley saying OMG, I never connected that together. I think she's talking about Hannah and Theo.
Yeah,
Um, and then Katie said, same, I could never do that to my sister. It just seems so weird. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I just have a different kind of love for my sister. I don't know. Maybe she knew and didn't say anything because she thought she would finally get the attention that Ellie was getting now that she was gone. Maybe. That's going back to that idea that maybe Hannah was, like, okay with this because she was always being neglected because Ellie was better and Ellie was this and Ellie was that, and maybe she saw this as, like, her moment, like, well,
Yeah,
she's
well,
gone,
she
so
went through a lot of trauma too, I can imagine, as being a neglected child, basically.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Um, Poppy as the policeman, that's such an interesting theory. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to note that it says police woman, you know?
Yes.
And normally I feel like they would have just said policeman.
Yeah.
But because it's a woman, it made me think, who is this? You know?
Yes. Yeah, I really think you're onto something. I'm not gonna stop thinking about it now. Now I'm gonna, like, email Lisa Jewell and be like, "Excuse me, so what did this mean?"
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this would be a really good movie. I would love to see this as a movie.
I think so too. And then another question, would we reread it? Because I know that sometimes even good books we wouldn't reread.
Mm,
Um, Personally, I think I would reread this because I felt like it was gripping enough. And I also feel like if I read it a second time, I would pick up things that I didn't pick up the first time and maybe
yeah.
get even more answers to questions. So I think I would.
Yeah, I think I would too once I got to the point of like, oh shoot, I don't remember that much about this book. I want to
Mhm.
reread it.
Yeah, I think
So
so too. Anybody in the chat, would you reread it or would you just be like, no, it was good, one and done?
done. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like some people can be like that. I mean, I'm like that even with some of the books that I love. Like,
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really good.
It really was. I'm trying to look at these questions. I don't really have much. Um, okay, this question I love. But it asks which scene has stuck with you the most. And honestly, it will be any of the times where we see Ellie in the basement. I don't know why, but I felt for Ellie so badly. Like being trapped down there. And then the fact that like she like literally wakes up pregnant one day. Like she just wakes up and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I think I'm pregnant." Like, can you imagine? Like being that far along and being like, "Oh my gosh, I think I'm pregnant." But like also she talked about being a virgin. So like
Yeah.
you think it's impossible and here
Well,
it is.
yeah, like when yeah. Like I thought about that too in the moment. I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's pregnant." And I would think like how like when did that even happen? Like they didn't even get into it, but um and it's just like, oh, they never covered it, but like I remember reading it and being like, "Oh my gosh, how did that happen?" Like she just implanted that with like a turkey baster when she was asleep, and then like
I guess.
and then they like don't talk about it at all, and I forgot, but then you just brought it up again. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, we never like obviously we don't need the details on that, but like ew."
And I'm not even gonna lie, I did have a theory when Ellie said, I went to bed and the next day I just knew something was different. Like, she just kinda had, like, that feeling, like, something was
Yeah.
not right.
Yeah, you're right.
Because they had played Floyd to be this dark dude, I straight up was like, "Oh my gosh, was he in on it? Like, did he do that to Ellie?" And then, like, that was his dark secret. Like, that was one of my theories at one
Yeah.
point. It was quickly shattered because then they were like, "Oh, sperm donor," which was like, "Okay, that's a little bit more okay, that's a
Yeah.
little bit more realistic. Let me bring myself down from the clouds a little bit."
Yeah.
Um, this is going back to rereading. I don't really reread books, but maybe it would have to be a while from now, though. Yeah, I think for me too. Like, once I start to forget a lot is when I would want to pick it back up, I think.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not much of a rereader, but maybe if some time has passed and I had forgotten the details, yeah, I think that's where we're all at pretty much. Um, I can't get out of my head that Noelle asked her something about wanting an animal when she was tutoring her, and then she remembered all that time and got her all the hamsters. It was so creepy. Yes, I was confused by the hamsters at first. I was like, why a bunch of hamsters? And then I also don't remember, and maybe this is just me like zoning out while reading because that happens, but I don't remember it talking about Noelle getting her a bunch of hamsters. Like I remember the scene where she gets her the one or like the few or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, here, I know you said you always wanted hamsters." But then when we see like later they go back into the basement and there's like 20 hamsters or whatever that are dead. I was just kind of like, okay, wait, I didn't know she got rid of hamsters.
I think she continually just kept bringing them. So it wasn't a bunch at once,
Okay.
but she continually kept bringing them to her, I think, is what I gathered.
Okay. That could be it.
Oh, or what Riley said. That makes sense too.
I think she got her two and they just, oh, okay, duh. Nature. I was like, I think I missed something because I was like, why is there like 25 of them? Like, what happened?
But that, yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Maybe. Well, Ellie said that she felt weird and like passed out after she ate, so I was confused as to how exactly it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder if she like drugged her enough. I mean, she would have had to implant the sperm into her, but like,
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, she did get her only two because remember she named them Trudy and Amy.
Yes.
But then I thought she had said like, oh, look at how. I guess she was just talking about the two, but she talked about how they were like so cramped in that box that she brought them in.
Mm-hmm.
So it did make it sound like there was more than two. But yeah, I guess they just reproduced and then there was a ton. And then she had to bring in more cages and all the stuff that she kept providing for, it just, I think that's probably the most memorable scene for me though too, is when she did, whenever she talked about the hamsters and then she threatened to flush them down the toilet. That was like the most memorable scene to me. I was like, oh, don't flush them down the toilet. That's so sad.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the animal abuse, and she's actually like abusing poor Ellie, and I'm like hung up on the hamsters.
Yeah.
I'm heartless.
Another random thing, which totally open for random thoughts. At this point, I don't really have any more like focused questions. So any random thoughts that you liked or disliked about the book, feel free to leave it in the chat. But something that I did want to mention is that I did love that Laurel and Floyd had like a real romance. Like it wasn't like Floyd was just trying to get close to her, which he admitted that it began that way. That was his intent until he met her. But I also loved that we didn't initially feel, or at least I didn't feel initially skeptical of Floyd. It wasn't until Laurel's phone call with whatever their names are that I can't remember, Blue and somebody, her son. Jake, that's what it is. But I didn't feel initially skeptical of Floyd, which I thought was great because then when he had dirt on him, I was very like, what? I thought he was a good guy. And I felt like their romance was genuine. Like I didn't feel like Floyd was trying to play her. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, I want to hear anybody's theories if they had any like from the very beginning. What your theories might have been like with Ellie disappearing and stuff, because mine like from page 30, the like thing that I immediately thought was that Ellie did run away and that she found Floyd, like she met up with Floyd and had a romantic relationship with him like on her own, like she fell in love with Floyd and got with Floyd.
Yeah.
Because I was like, there's no other way for Poppy to look exactly like Ellie without actually being related. So I knew right away that that was Ellie's daughter, but it was just a matter of like how she had the baby. I didn't think anything about the kidnapping, about the intentional conception by Noelle and whatever. I thought like, because it just definitely went down a crazier, dirtier creepier road than I initially thought. Like I thought it was just, but then I was confused. How did Ellie end up dead? But I thought that she would have just gotten pregnant, under her own volition with Floyd, and then had Poppy, and then died. Because when you found out that when Floyd said that Poppy's mother also vanished, I was like, oh, maybe that's Ellie. She vanished twice. Like she disappeared, had the baby with Floyd, and then when Poppy was 4, she disappeared again. That's what I thought.
Yeah. I actually did have that initial theory. Okay, so I had like a few different lanes, and I went with the most realistic one because I had the idea that, like, okay, Poppy is somehow related to Ellie. That's just like, that is the most realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had this other theory. Okay, being someone who's married to a guy that likes the whole sci-fi time loop stuff, I was like, maybe somehow this is Ellie, but younger, and there's this just time loop thing that is happening. Like I was like, maybe, but then I was like, this isn't sci-fi. Why would that be there? And then there was another theory that I had, and I can't remember it right now, but I had lanes that I could take, but I went with Poppy being related to Ellie in some way because they emphasize so much on her looking like
features.
Yeah. I honestly had no idea. I just knew she was kidnapped, but I didn't know by who. So then the plot twist was really big for you then. That's what I would assume. When Laurel met Poppy, I knew she was her daughter. I thought that maybe she was trafficked or something like that, with him being connected. Okay, I like this theory too, because that also seems likely. Like that could be.
Because I didn't think Floyd was very suspicious at all, like you were saying too. Like I felt like he was a good guy, and so like even if he did get with Poppy, I wouldn't have thought he did it in a bad way. Right. Or I guess that's just me too, like hoping it wasn't worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And just thinking that some time had passed and Poppy was of age, and it wasn't like child molestation or anything, but like that's just what I was thinking.
Yeah. I honestly thought that Laurel was like exaggerating when she said she looked exactly like her. I didn't take it literally for some reason. Yeah. So this is another theory, you guys. I also had a theory that we could have been watching the mom slowly go into like a psychosis almost. Like she is becoming a Noelle is what I was seeing. Like, oh, she thinks this looks like Ellie. Now she's going to become obsessive and want Poppy to be her daughter. And like, I thought that was the trail that we were going to take at one point too, but obviously it didn't. And then I also thought that Poppy was somehow Ellie, but I didn't have any reasoning as to why. Yeah, I don't know why. I just was kind of like, oh, maybe they're the same person. And then I was like, no, how would that happen if this is not a sci-fi? Like, how would that even make sense? Yeah, so I feel like this book did a great job because there could have been so many possible theories. There could have been so many different ways that this book went. And even while reading the book, you didn't feel like you were just arriving at a destination. You felt like you were kind of taking a scenic route almost. So I don't know. I don't really have anything bad.
Yeah, no, it ultimately, like the way that it did go, I was really happy with. Like, I'm glad that it was really creepy and it wasn't just like a misunderstanding or like a totally easy solution. I really liked how it was dark, because I haven't read too many recently that have gone a dark route like that, and it's it sounds bad to say, but I just like those books more. But yeah, I thought it was really good. I also loved how the chapters were so short.
Yes,
that was amazing.
Short chapters, especially in thrillers, I love.
Yeah,
they're more like get to the point, keep me reading.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Well, if anybody doesn't have any last thoughts, I think we're going to wrap it up here. I, again, was super satisfied with this book, and I am also super satisfied with this live show. I feel like
Yeah, it was a good one. We had a lot to talk about.
Yes, lots of theories. I really liked it. And then also just a quick reminder to anyone, if you like doing reading sprints, there will be some reading sprints on Sidney's channel tomorrow night at 6 p.m. EST. Or 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
5
6
p.m. my time, or 5 p.m. Central,
Okay.
6 p.m. EST. Yes.
Yes. So if you guys are wanting to do some sprints, they will be up on Sidney's channel tomorrow.
night.
I'm very excited. What will be your next Lisa Jewell read? This is hard. I've seen a few from Book of the Month, actually. Book of the Month has a few, I think 2 or 3. I think it's 2 of her picks that I want to read. But I think there's one, I think it's by Lisa Jewell, and it's called The Night She Disappeared or something.
Yeah, that's her newest one.
Yeah, I do want to read that one, I think.
How many of hers have you read, Katie? Have you read like basically all her books? Because I want to know which one you think we should read.
Yes.
Because I don't own any more. This is the only one I have by her. And I don't know which one I would want to read first. I've always thought The Night She Disappeared would be the first one I'd pick up, or the next one I would pick up too, because it's the newest one. But it bothers me that there's not a paperback of that yet. Or at least I don't think so.
Okay, The Family Upstairs was another one that interesting. I've only been hesitant because I read The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. I don't know which one came first, probably Lisa Jewell. But it just kind of feels like, I don't know, I'm scared it might be like a copy. But it probably won't be. I probably just need to get over that and just read The Family Upstairs. But
I haven't read The Wife Upstairs yet. And I would be interested to see if it's this like kind of the same concept, but I don't know. But this is good to know. Maybe I will read The Family Upstairs next.
Yeah. So that's going to be the end of our live show. Thank you so much to those of you that joined and, chatted with us. I feel like chatted is not a word, but it's okay.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not an author. Yes, we love you guys so much, and I am so happy to have a book club. I think it's so fun.
I know, it is so fun.
I love it.
I was gonna remind the people that are still here too, for our March picks. We're reading Project Hail Mary and The Collective in March. So we hope to see you guys next month too. Yes, hopefully those will be good live shows also.
Yeah, I think both of those should be good. I'm not really worried about that.
Yeah.
All right. We will see you guys maybe tomorrow night on Sidney Sprints.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.